of Epaphras, our dear fellow servant, who is for you a faithful minister of Christ. And then he's again mentioned in Philemon, verse 23, where it said that he spoke of as a fellow prisoner. Amen. But the man had a prayer life. Amen. 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 Well, amen. Don't y'all get too excited now, because listen, I believe that prayer is very important in the day we live in. Amen. And I believe this man prayed, said, who is one of you? Amen. I like that. Amen. I really like that. A servant of Christ, saluteth you, always laboring fervently for you in prayers, that you may stand perfect and complete in all the will of God. Amen. I want to preach to you about what I believe this man prayed for these people. And let's see if our prayers are like this man's prayers, and how far of a prayer life that this man got. I believe, number one, this man prayed, amen, for their fullness. Amen. Their fullness, amen. I just wonder tonight how many people that say they're saved are really full of the Lord. Amen. Amen. Well, amen. I mean, how many people are really full of the Lord? Amen. The Bible said that we might be filled all in all. Amen. Amen. And that we might have the fullness of the Spirit of the Lord living in us, brother. Let me tell you, when we come to the house of God, I believe we need to pray, amen, for God's fullness, for everything that God's got for us. We ought to be in the condition to want that. I believe this is part of this man's prayer for this church, that church could stand perfect and complete in all of the will of God. You can't stand perfect and complete in the will of God if you're not full, amen, of the Lord. Brother, listen, to be full of the Lord, you first got to be emptied of yourself, emptied of anything that would be foreign unto the will of God, and ask the Lord to fill you. But the Bible said in another place, be ye filled with the Spirit, and not with wine wherein is excess. But he said, speaking to yourself in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart unto the Lord. If this man who is one of you could pray that prayer for the church, that it might stand perfect and complete in all the will of God, I can't help but believe that part of his prayer was that that church be full of the Lord. Amen. Amen. Are me and you full of the Lord? Amen. Or are we full of ourselves? Amen. 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 Come on. Some folks are full of the world. Amen. Amen. Some folks are carnal. Yes. Some are fleshly. Amen. But amen, we need to be filled, amen, with the Lord. Amen. Filled, full, amen. The fullness. Amen. But I believe this is what this man's prayer was. This is what my prayer's been for Solid Rock Baptist Church. But as I said before, folks can get, amen, full of the Lord, they've got to first get emptied of any and everything that would be foreign to the will of God, foreign to anything, amen, that would be against the Spirit, amen, and amen, pray and ask God to fill us. Amen. Amen. Come on, let's get into service. That's right. Epaphras. Amen. I've never heard nobody preach on Epaphras. Amen. 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 Never heard nobody, but amen, the Lord spoke to me. He said, who is one of you? Yeah. Amen. I believe he prayed for this church to be filled. Amen. Amen. The church will never get full of people till we get full of the Lord. Amen. Amen. Well, amen. That's right. Amen. Oh, I think a lot of people tonight has lost sight of Christ. I believe they've lost sight of the church. I believe they've lost sight of what this thing's all about. And amen, we need a filling tonight. We need a fresh filling. I've often said, brother, that the church is the best filling station that there is. Amen. When our cars get empty, amen, we hunt a place to drive up and fill up. Here lately, I can't afford to fill up. I just got to get what I can get with what I got. Amen. But I know one thing, brother. I can pull up to the filling station of the Lord and get filled up from top to bottom.
Amen.
That's right. Amen. Amen. I believe we're surely living in the day when a lot of people ain't full of the Lord. Amen. They're full of themselves.
Amen.
They're full of their own thoughts. They're full of their own ways. Yeah. Till we sell out to Christ, ask God to fill us, ask God to use us. Amen. We'll never get full of the Lord. Amen. That's right. Oh yeah. Amen. I believe this with all my. I believe this is what Ephesus prayed about. Amen. It said he was a fellow servant, and it also said he was a fellow prisoner. So evidently he spent time in jail with Paul. Yeah. I believe he learned a lot from old Paul. Yeah, amen. You know what? There'd been one feller I wouldn't mind spending the night in jail with.
Amen.